Welcome to Voices from Below, a podcast where we share the real stories and experiences of miners. Our aim is to foster understanding and positive change by highlighting personal experiences and insights without focusing on specific individuals or organizations. The views shared here are personal and not necessarily those of the podcast team. Thanks for joining us.
Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Voices from Below. Today we're talking with Kgwale, who's an experienced mineral economics engineer. Kgwale, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me, Aiden.
Yeah, so could you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your journey so far in mining?
Like I said, my name is Kgwale. I'm a qualified mining engineer. I started my journey, obviously studying at a university to obtain my mining engineering qualification, which is the Bachelor of Science. And I went to then work in an underground mine, a gold mine, one of the deepest gold mines in South Africa or in the world for that matter. And we went through our training. From training, we then took over the sections in terms of production. From production, I think I worked there for probably 7 years. After 7 years, then I left and went into consulting. Currently, what I do is that I'm a mineral economics engineer. So I do mineral evaluations in terms of, yes, there is a deposit that is available, but are you going to make money out of it? So, and how are you going to process it? Is there transportation to take the material to the client? Is there a market for it? So that's what I do. I do studies. I do mining applications in different areas. I also do target identification to say, if somebody says I want a chrome mine in Australia, then I do that to say, where in Australia are you going to find that mine? How many tons is there? Any mining rights over that area? What do you need for you to mine, or what do you need for you to process that commodity to become a mine? And also, what is the client interest and also your risk profile to say, do you, risk appetite to say, do you want a mine that is already operational, or do you want to do exploration on the land and actually develop the asset until it becomes a mine and sell it off to somebody else? So I also do the assessment to say, if somebody wants to sell you a mine, for example, as well, to say, is what they're saying is in the ground, really in the ground? So we do the due diligence assessment of whether it's the geology and the overall information that is provided to the second party to say, is the mine, and how much is the mine worth as well.
Got it.
Yes. So we do your due diligence transactions. We deploy our technical, financial, and market intelligence acumen to assist our clients in making sound investment and sound investment decisions.
Yeah. So could you, from where you grew up and all that, was going into the mining industry? Was that a pretty common thing, or not so much?
Not so much, because I only got to know about the qualification itself when I think a shaft opened in the area where I stayed, which was one of the first shafts that were sunk in that area. It was a platinum mine. And I think I was doing grade 10 or 11 at the time. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And that's where my, I guess, interest in mining started off. And from there on, I was like, I want to explore this thing. I want to know what's happening underground. It activated something in me that said, I want to be a part of this.
Yeah. And before then, right, before you got into mining, what was your perspective on, the scene in, South Africa, or even just in the world?
Initially, I thought it was all about coal mining that I was aware of, all dirty, all dusty. And it wasn't also a women place to work. Therefore, it never really crossed my mind. But it's only after I was exposed to that particular mine that I was like, okay, let me explore this thing. Plus the fact that there was now a drive to have more women join the mining industry. So I was then lucky to be part of those people that were joining the mining industry at the time. We had bursaries that were being offered to underprivileged people. And at that time, so I was funded by the Mining Qualifications Authority of South Africa to go study mining engineering. And yeah, after that, then I had to go do vacation work. They had to place you, whether it was in the coal mines, the gold mines, or the platinum mines, but I ended up in the gold mines. And after, I think, a year or two of going to the gold mines, then the gold mine itself then gave me a bursary, took over the Mining Qualifications Authority bursary to fund my studies until I completed and ultimately started studying there.
Okay, so did you get a choice to be in different mines, or were you just automatically placed into that gold mine?
I had an opportunity to go to different mines, but at the end of the day, I think for the bursary allocation, you are placed at a particular mine, but it doesn't mean the same shaft because you can have 12 shafts in the same area. And you find that they are mining different reefs, they are mining different ore bodies, they are mining, it's different mining methods. So we then get the opportunity to actually go to different shafts and all that. I think in total, I probably been underground in 14 different shafts.
And like, what typically, like, what seems to differ between shafts? Like, what's the big difference between all the different shafts you've been in?
Number one, it's the ore body itself because you've got areas where the ore body is so thick you can actually walk upright. Then you've got the very thin strips wherein you have to crawl to get in there. Though the legislation currently obviously say your mining areas should not be less than 1.2 meters high. But there are certain areas, wherein you'll have to crawl to get there, or jump something to get there, or swing on a rope to get there. But at the end of the day, and also the access methods, you've got your declines, you've got your vertical shafts, and some it's one drop shaft, some you have to actually go through 3 shafts, different type of shafts to get to the working place. And the working place themselves are different. Some you mine up deep, some you mine down deep, some you mine breast mining, which is the direction of mining relative to the ore body that you're mining.
So some of those sound like pretty elaborate for what you need to do to get to them. So would you say like the overall safety measures that were in place were enough to protect miners down there, or do you think not so much?
Yes, I think we are actually going in the right direction currently. Though some are favorable to the employees, some are not that favorable to the mining in itself. For example, I'll say I think I did another podcast where I was on some. We have initially back in the days we would have ore passes that if they block, you are allowed to go in and actually blast it down. But because of all the fatalities that happen from the risk of doing that, we are not allowed to do it anymore. Therefore, but unfortunately, we lose those ore passes in that then production is slowed down because you don't have enough ore pass to actually pass the ore to the cars to take it to surface and all that.
So what's been the repercussions from not allowing that anymore besides just production? Is there any other consequences from that?
Yes, there are 2 things. Number one, you obviously have to construct your ore passes differently. But because you've got people who've worked in the mines for a very long time, trying to change their mindset to say, let us construct this thing differently so that if it blocks, we are able to unblock it. But many find that the process is longer and they take shortcuts hoping that it does not block. But yeah, when it blocks, then we lose that ore pass. You'll have a lot of bottlenecks in the system wherein you're not able to produce as much as you're supposed to because of all the ore passes that you've lost.
Got it. So would you say that, like, for example, getting rid of that, or like any other potential um, issues that could, cause some safety concerns, do you think that the miners' perceptions of those things being removed is generally positive or negative? I know you said that, people that they've generally been, stuck in the ways of doing it. And like when you switch, it can be somewhat difficult. But would you say they're adjusting to it?
I'm really giving them the benefit of the doubt in that looking at where we started, especially in terms of the support systems that are being put in place to ensure the safety of the miners, um, they have really adapted to all the change. Yes, it requires a lot of manual labor in terms of the wire mesh that the mesh that they need to put when they are drilling, all the safety measures put in place. It's really taxing, but at the end of the day, with the enforcement of the law and also the people that are in charge of production, then it makes the transition much better. So either way, they don't have a choice. It's when if you want to work in the mine, you have to do it safely.
Yeah. So from what you've seen, do you think there's still a lot more work to be done in terms of safety in some of the mines in South Africa? Or do you think they've gotten to a point where you believe they're safe enough and there's not much other reform that's needed?
Well, I like to say that the mines are almost like driving. As much as everything is in order, accidents still do happen. So it needs somebody to be vigilant every day. So it's a continuous thing. You can't say now we've got it, let's do it and stop paying attention, because accidents happen when you actually think now I'm experienced, I can do this without following proper procedures and protocols. Therefore, I think it's a continuous thing, and that's how it should be to keep everybody safe.
Yeah, yeah. And specifically on this podcast, we've had some guests talk about how there's been fatalities or accidents. So, from what you've seen with any sort of fatalities, accidents, or anything that you've heard or seen or anything like that, they're just in the wrong place, wrong time. They make a shortcut or they make a mistake or something, or like, do you think it's on the miner, or do you think it's just generally just random? Like they can't really control it.
Well, I would say probably 51-49%, where 51% is actually not especially with the gold mines, underground gold mines. We have seismic events wherein, because of the stress that the rock releases and all that, it actually bursts. Therefore, you don't have control over that. Yes, there are measures like you do your drill, how you drill, and how you support the area in case a seismic event happens, but some things you cannot control. So if your rockfall accidents, yes, you bar down rocks so that they don't fall on you, but sometimes you don't see it coming. The cracks in between, you don't really see it coming down, and next thing you've got fall of ground. So some of those things are not, it's really just an accident. But the human errors are also take place, especially when you're dealing with big machinery and procedures and processes that people want to take shortcuts. But we've seen that actually people value their lives. Nobody wants to die in the mines. Therefore, everybody wants to be safe, but the temptation of taking shortcuts is always there.
Yeah. And you mentioned seismic events. How often does that happen? Is that a somewhat common occurrence at most of these mines, or is that a pretty rare thing to happen?
It happens every day. The difference is the size.
Okay. Okay.
Because yes, it's almost like a wave, to say you've got smaller waves that go by unnoticed, but others are bigger than others. Therefore, at the end of the day, when you get a big seismic event, then it means more ground is affected, more areas are affected because it moves like a wave, and it depends how far it also goes. So sometimes you might find it's only one stope or one raised line that is affected, but sometimes it's the entire mine wherein you have to evacuate. But the big events don't happen often.
Yes. So, kind of going off that, do these seismic events typically depend also by region, or is most of the mines in South Africa affected pretty equally?
It's stress related. The deeper you go, the more stress the rock is, the more. And when you open a void, nature says when you open a void, that void needs to be closed. So the rock then wants to close that void. What does it do? It bursts. Therefore, it's something that is expected but can be avoided.
Got it. Got it. So, yeah, going back to production for a second. We've had some people on the podcast also say that they typically have witnessed a lot of occurrences where they think that production has been valued over safety. And I know you said that there's some practices that were put in place that slightly slow down production, but help safety more. So I'm just wondering, from again everything you've seen, from being a consultant to being in the mines itself or anything. Do you think that which one do you think is typically valued more, production or safety?
Um, I think we've adopted to safety generally, because at the end of the day, if the mine is declared unsafe or the actions are unsafe, then the Department of Minerals and Energy has the right to shut down the mine. So the Section 51 that then shuts down the mine takes longer, and you lose more time and more money with the mine being shut, so that you stop and fix whatever that is unsafe. So you'd rather be safe the first time around. So at the end of the day, we've moved from the unsafe situations, I think, and we're moving towards safety. But we still have in mind that at the end of the day, as a production company, you need to produce. Bills are paid by production. You get your payment through production. So yes, we can be safe. We might as well not be mining if we can't produce, and
Yeah,
everybody will be out of work. So it's one thing, we need to work safe. That is the message that we put out there.
yeah. So you would say that the industry in South Africa is pretty well regulated. Then, do you think the flow of true info is pretty available?
Everything is so regulated that you can't hide anything. It's not easy to hide anything. For example, if there was an accident that happens in a different shaft somewhere, I remember when I would come out from underground, and already my phone would have messages from family members asking, "Are you okay?" Before I myself knew that there's an accident that happened in my mind, it's already broadcasted everywhere. So once there's a fatality, everybody wants to know what happened and what is it that is it a person. Uh, is it the person who inflicted the accident on themselves, or is it the system? So everybody wants to know, to make sure that we work safe.
Got it. Got it. And when it comes to women in mining, in your region, would you say that um, it's there's enough support for women to join the industry, or again, do you think there's a lot more that needs to be done, or some? Like, where's your stance on that?
uh, it's still it's still a long way to go, in that I started I'll say 2006, and the industry was still not yet ready for people like myself. For example, I would wear boot size 3 because I'm so short. I was tiny at the time. I couldn't get a boot size. I couldn't get an overall size. because the overalls, I think I wore size 92 and they only started at 102 at the time. And you're like, simple things like that. But now we have moved, they have adapted, and the boots would go above my knees. And they are not designed that way. And when you cut it, it doesn't fall within the safety regulations of the mine. So now you're you're contradicting what needs to happen in terms of safety. So that was also the challenge. And there were no toilets at the time as well underground, because with the men, they would just go to the old areas to relieve themselves. But right now, they've introduced the toilets and everything in the mines. There's clean water, there's food that is being provided. And yeah, I think we're moving in the right place. And also, management is also getting used to having mines and the employees having women in the mines. And it depends on companies as well to say, if they are not being pushed to actually take care of the women in mining, nobody does it. So if the legislation and the law is not being enforced, then that's where you see the gaps and the lack of support for women in mining.
So if you had to point to, let's say, two things that you think should still be improved to, help support women in mining, what would those two things be that you still don't feel that are either not implemented at all, or you think there's still a long way to go?
I think it's the development, number one, because you still have people who say, no, women don't want to be developed, or they're not capable of taking care of sections or being a mine manager or being a general manager or a section manager for that matter. But you see it happen in the coal mines and the platinum mines, but you hardly see it in the gold mines. But when you look at the working conditions, they're almost the same. So the question is, why is it not happening?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
specifically in the gold mines, the development of women is still lacking a lot, and also the lack of mentorship. Because yes, you get allocated mentors, but I think it's a two-way relationship as well. To say, I had a mentor allocated to me, but when I left, I didn't even say I'm leaving. And they never even called to say, where are you? So you
Wow.
literally just disappeared in the system. So when the two parties are not on the same page, the mentorship then falls apart and sort of loses its momentum or
Got it.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
So would you say that whether for you or even for a man, do you think that the mining industry supports family life enough, to be able to take that time or to be able to spend time with your spouse or kids or anything like that, or would you say that the job doesn't really support that well?
It doesn't really support that. But there are two things. The For the shifts that start at 4 o'clock in the morning, by 2 o'clock you are supposed to be done with your work, and I think that's a reasonable time to actually knock off to be with your family. But for a woman, it means that you were not there to prepare the kids to go to school and make sure that everything is sorted. Somebody else must be at the house to do that for you. Yes, you might be able to pick them up after school and take them home and prepare a meal for them, but you were not there in the morning because the shift doesn't work. But at the end of the day, because the mine is not predictable, there is a high chances that instead of knocking off at 2 o'clock, you knock off at 5 p.m. So that means that your whole day it's then messed up. Plus, you work every second Saturday, which means you have even less time when you work in production to spend with your family. But yeah, I don't think there's much that they can do. When you enter the industry, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, so you don't think there's really many reforms that can be done or any sort of, I mean, obviously, I know you said it's, pretty unpredictable in terms of times, but you don't think there's any other, shift schedules that could, fix some of those issues, or is it just kind of, there's not really many fixes?
No, with production, I don't think so.
Got it.
With
Got
production,
it.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So for someone who's, thinking of joining the industry in 2024, um, specifically in, your role or, in some other similar role, what advice would you give to them? Would you say they should join? Would you say they shouldn't? And yeah, what else would you say to them?
I would say they should join. It's actually a very interesting industry, and it has a lot of opportunities. And just because, which gives you a better chance, I think, in getting the type of employment that you want. In that, for example, if you studied mining engineering, you are not you stuck in production. You can be a rock engineer, you can be a mineral economics engineer, which I am, you can be a mine planner, you can be an environmentalist, you can be anything. You can actually diversify within the mine itself. Therefore, and also you are not uh, you you can even go to other industries outside of the mines, but with the experience you'll be able to navigate through the world, I think, or the also the workspace. So
Got it.
if somebody wants to do mining, I'll say go for it 100%.
Yeah, and what are some of the popular industries that you've seen friends of yours or other people going into after getting a degree similar to yours that's not mining?
um okay, you've got people who will go into logistics, number one, to say with mining, there's so much, especially with your bulk commodities, there is so much logistics that are required in the mines. So people will see opportunities in that area to say, because of the knowledge of mines, then they get to do to do logistics to provide for the mines. You've got people within procurement as well to say, I can actually produce this particular item for the mines because it's what is needed. You've got people who go um, to mine other commodities that are not popular because they know that what that commodity is used to process the current commodity that the mine is producing. So it's a sub. It's a it's a sub. Um, what it's a material that is needed to complement or process the material that they are currently producing. Therefore, you've got people who will then go out to venture out in other businesses that actually supports the mining industry.
Got it. So, kind of going back a little bit to one of the first questions that was asked to you, what do you think that people all around the world typically get wrong about the mining industry? What do they not, you think, realize about it?
They think it's this horrible place to work with, almost like a prison wherein you are asked do this, do that. You're always dirty. It's physically intensive and all that. But there are so many roles to play in the mines that you don't even have. You've got people who've never put on an overall in their life but work in the mines. Uh, but also that, yeah, the notion obviously to say they're dangerous, they're not necessarily dangerous. When you look at how many cars are being produced, how many accidents happen, how many people die, versus the number of people that are being employed in the mines and the accidents that happen, you'll realize that even construction is the worst area where accidents happen more often in construction than in the mines. But everybody's saying no, the mining industry is dangerous. It's dangerous. Construction is. So those are some of the things that people believe. But I think generally, yeah, people with the information all over the world, all over the internet, people actually have a better understanding of what mines are, and everybody's interested because wealth is in the mines. There is money in the mines to be made, and yeah, everybody's gunning up for the mines.
Got it. Yeah, and some people, kind of going off of that a little bit, um, say that you know mining is a dirty industry and it's affecting the environment and all that. So, what would you say to someone that says that it's really negative in that regard?
We have to be realistic in certain things. To say, I believe that yes, we need to preserve the environment, and which is what the legislation also does. But at the same time, it's would we rather have people not work because we are mining a place somewhere in the desert where nobody stays, but somebody has said, no, we are destroying the environment. Nobody stays there to start with, and the mine is not going to affect anybody. But opening up a mine there and employing people is actually going to make a difference in people's lives. You see, so for me, it's about let's do what works now, but have the mentality to say we don't want to destroy obviously the planet for the future people, but we need to make those decisions to say, will we be able to restore it? As long as we're able to restore it, I believe that we can mine it.
And do you think there's, going off of that, do you think that there's enough that's being done so far to support that, whether it be, cleaning up after, the mine is finished, or, any other, employing new tech or, anything like that? Do you think that there's enough being done right now, or do you still think that there's, a reasonably long way to go?
With the South African legislation right now, you can't even start mining before you have the money to put for the rehabilitation of the mine that you're starting.
Wow.
Therefore, yes. So the only challenge right now is obviously the ancient mines, which were left open, and there are pits everywhere that are left open, and now it's acid mine drainage and all that. But any mine that has the current mining licenses, you have to have that fund available before you even start. And the fund is equivalent to how much it's going to cost you by the time you stop mining in that area.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate what you said. I know there's a lot of stuff that I hadn't really considered before. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Aidan, for inviting me. It was a pleasure, and hopefully I've given enough mining insight for anyone who needed more information. Thank you.
For sure. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Voices from Below. If you or anyone you know wants to be featured on Voices from Below, you can reach us at voicesfrombelowpodcast@gmail.com. That is voicesfrombelowpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to catch you in the next episode.